Unit testing. Every developer's worst nightmare, or at least it is mine, because we just want to write code and applications and things that work. We don't want to spend time testing stuff. Although that's what we have to do, whether we do it now or we do it later when the app crashes. So to understand unit testing and why it's actually important, let's take an analogy. Let's look at something simple like a ballpoint pen. A pen is composed of various parts. We might have the sleeve, we might have the ink reservoir, we have the nib that goes on the end, and the little roller ball that distributes the ink whenever we use the pen. Now, if you assemble that pen and you put it all together and it doesn't write anything, leaving aside the logic that you know it's something to do with the ink or the ball, you don't actually know where the problem is, do you? If it's just a system. Let's say your grandmother's using this pen, she phones you and says the pen's not working and doesn't give you any more information than that. Well, you can't diagnose the problem effectively, can you? Because you don't have enough information at a deep enough level. So when it comes to code, it's the same. What you need to do is test. So if we come back to the pen analogy, before my pen leaves the factory, I'd want to do the following. I'd want to test the plastic tube, make sure it's sturdy. I'd want to test the ink tube, make sure it's sturdy, flexible, can hold ink. I'd test the ink works and the nib rolls. And finally, I'd test the functionality, probably as a whole or as subsections of all those things. So in your code, it's pretty much the same. Let's say you have a function or a method, you put a bit of data in, and you expect some data out. You can write a test that says, hey, shove in some random bits of data, and these are what I expect to happen as a result. And if that data comes out as you expect, then it's passed the test. And there are lots of platforms that allow you to do this in a very methodical way. So you have an input, you have some code, you have an output, and we can test all of that. Now, why is this important? Well, you've probably guessed, we need stuff to work. But getting more granular than that, we actually need to know where problems are in our code, because we're always refactoring, always changing, always upgrading, or downgrading in some cases, our code to do different things. And if we don't have these tests in place, you might change something that affects something else. Now, if your code's good, that shouldn't really happen anyway, but these things do happen because that's real life. So that's why unit testing is important, so you know where the problems are very specifically and you can sort them out. The other time that unit testing is important is when you have a team of developers. And you'll notice a theme here. Whenever things go wrong, or I recommend ways of writing code, I always bring up the word team. And teams are great when they work together, but usually each person does his own thing, right? So I'll make the server module, you make the app module. If I have to come along to your server code because you rage quit your job because you want to play Warzone all day, then I need to know that all of your code is working so I can run tests on it. And then if I change your code, I can use those same tests to verify that I haven't messed anything up. So unit testing, I don't really do for my sort of indie apps I just want to get out there, because you don't really need it for a simple system if you're just an indie developer. But if those apps take off, then I would actually consider writing unit tests to keep the quality of the experience high for the end user. If you're a beginner programmer, then you're probably a bit daunted facing a landscape of hundreds of languages and frameworks. What you need, even more than programming knowledge, is clarity around your learning journey. You need a map. A map that shows you what technical and non-technical skills are required as an employee, freelancer, or entrepreneur. And that's where my free guide comes in, Zero Dev to Hero Dev. It outlines top-level skills you need to become an employee, freelancer, entrepreneur, or any mixture of the three. If you want a map to success, then this guide is what you're looking for. Get it for free at imdev.net/hero.